So it's Thursday, the 16th of April. It's about 8 o'clock in the morning here. I'm at the top of Cheddar Gorge because there's so much wildlife around here. I mean, I've got a mountain goat in the scenery behind me. There's different types of bird noises and everywhere this morning, unusual. But yeah, you will get the occasional car go by. Hopefully, it won't drown me out while I'm speaking. But yeah, I want to cover. I did a video the other day on conscious consuming. I think is really important when all this is over, what we're going through now in this COVID-19, to make sure we support the people who are family-run businesses. You know they're around everywhere, and it's very hard to get away from these main corporations. And when you see a sign, say Tesco or Asda or something like that, what you tend to do is straight away you sort of think, oh, I know where their stuff is. I know what I like to eat in there, and you sort of go out. Convenience is always convenience stores. They got everything under one roof. They're not going to be telling you I haven't got any of that at the moment or whatever. But we need to really become focused on making sure we support these very small independent businesses in every way we can. We know some of the stuff filters down from the top, but at least there's somebody else making a bit of a margin out of it. And if you have to pay a little bit more, then so be it. That's just these people are trying to earn a living without the billions of pounds to back them up if they lose a couple of million or something. They're trying to make this work. And so when you go to get your car serviced or anything, try not to go to main dealer. Try and find someone who has the computer system for your car, say, for instance. Or when you go to the shops, try and buy things that are not produced by massive manufacturers. I mean, I give honey as an example the other day, but honey is an alternative for sugar in your tea and your coffee and everything else. And I'm talking natural honey, not the stuff you can buy. It says honey, but it's actually sugar, which has been produced by massive corporations. So you need to find these little local sort of people who do, there's farm shops around. There's loads of farm shops. You've always driven by them, you just never pulled over because they haven't got a prime location or anything else. And I did mention the other day about the petrol stations. Yeah, petrol stations are an absolute nightmare, but there may be a petrol station close to you, like me out in the countryside here, that you don't want closing after all this. They may be within walking distance. How important is that to have a small store that's within walking distance that you can get your milk and bread from? Just think about that. Suddenly, if you haven't got a car, or you're not allowed to drive a car anymore, then you need to sort of walk and go to these places. Who do you want to support? I always fill my car up with fuel with the most local petrol station. I don't look at the price. I've never looked at the price anyway. But you need to support these people because they're going to be the ones, when these situations happen, they're going to be the ones that are going to say, look, just do this for me, all right? I've got a leaky roof. You know how to do roofs. I got a fence that's falling down. There's little things like this, and you can all swap and share. Instead of walking into a great big store and feeding somebody who's taking that money from you and taking it overseas and making a lot of money exploiting the people who are in that store working, if indeed there is anybody working, because that's a computer system now, and that's where we're going in this non-contact world that we're going to be heading into. How could you get served by somebody? They've just touched that cash, that dirty cash that you've been given back. Whereas our machines have sterilization tools for the cash, and our buttons are these have surfaces on them that every time someone touches it's sort of an antibacterial agent on it. Maybe the buttons are made of silver, real silver, which is that natural antibacterial anyway. You just there's probably a lot of things that we can go into with all that. And also what I'd like to cover on this video this morning is these I don't watch the mainstream, so you'd have to forgive me when I'm speaking if I'm speaking from a naive standpoint, because at the end of the day I don't I haven't watched TV in 6 years. I can't watch the news, put it that way. Not even just for educational purposes to see what's going on. I've just had enough of that world. It left me a long time ago. But at the same time, I do hear back through others, because I have no social media or anything. I do hear back through others how, you know, how all these, basically, I'll tell you what's happening with the NHS workers, right? The NHS workers have been underappreciated for many, many, many years. They've worked so hard. I mean, some of the surgeons that saved my wife's life, just a year and a half back, 2 years back, you know, she was literally hours to live. And, you know, the surgeon who saved her stayed on Sunday night after doing 7 days in a row and did her operation and finished it at 8:30 at night. And he was the only surgeon in the whole of the Bristol Royal Infirmary who was left to do that operation. And he'd been operating on people all day, and he was monitoring her status, which was looking really, really bad. And he, you know, he was so tired when he did her operation, but if he hadn't have done it, she wouldn't be here, because he knew she wouldn't make it to the morning. And between every operation, he was coming up and seeing what her condition was like. And he was looking really concerned, and he's like, we need to get her in, we need to get her in. But I've literally got people bleeding out on the table on in my operating theatre, and they're about to die, so I have to do them first. And I'm there thinking, well, what can I do for you? Like, you know, what can I do for you? Because you look really tired. I don't know. And, you know, that's when they go into the fact that you can write a letter saying, you know, suggesting that perhaps they were understaffed. He said, don't make it too aggressive, because it will be binned. So, you know, these are the things that we can do. But what I'm saying about the NHS workers is they've been massively unappreciated for many, many years, and now they're being played, because they're getting their moments fame, but with the permission of with the permission of governments and the people who control these analytics to make sure videos like this, if they flag it up, don't get out there. They've given permission by those people, and permission by you know, by everybody who's involved with trying to suppress any information. So they're getting their reward for how hard they do work. Because believe me, nobody works harder, and I've seen it with my own eyes. But they're being played in a way that now they're finally appreciated and being jumped on. It's being used by others to, and I'll tell you how it's being used. What's happening is they are needed. They're going to get their 5 minutes of fame, and they're going to keep their mouth shut, because at the end of all this, there will be NHS workers who will come out and they'll stand up and say, hang on a minute, this didn't happen. But there'll be mainly NHS workers who've really enjoyed their moment of fame. They've been clapped down the street. They've made it onto TV. They've made a viral video. These people, you'll never hear from them saying anything about how unbusy it is, because they've really been celebrated and actually got some reward for what they've done, and they don't want to give that up. They're building up an energetic charge in these nurses and doctors, but by doing all these things and making it so it's almost embedded in them. They can't deny that these hospitals are real bad in any way, because they're almost like they've become part of that machine that's spreading that propaganda. But you will get the nurses who all the way along just sat back in the background and thought, this isn't right. These hospitals aren't packed, the bodies aren't piling up. This is no more than, perhaps this hospital is probably quieter than it is in any other given year, because they've sort of emptied it to, so say, make way for a surge or whatever, you know. And what will happen is, when these people pop up and start speaking, they won't get a voice on anything mainstream. If they start doing their own channel, they'll get suppressed by YouTube's sort of analytics, where it's studying, you know, what words people are using and all this sort of stuff. And yeah, so what will happen then is, if they decide to go onto an alternative media site, which is, you know, and be interviewed, whether that be some sort of podcast or whatever, these people will be used then in the media. So they may even speak up, and they may go on the media, and the media will happily invite them in. Come on, give your piece, right? And what